Hey folks, we're gonna do some artwork commissions this morning for the this is the book cover that we're creating for Inrovin's Shatterer. This is a third tier adventure for Dungeons and Dragons, 5th edition, and so I'm going to give me a second here to check my signal, make sure I'm coming through okay, and then I'll just go through my quick intro spiel. And then we'll get to work. So give me a hot second here. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. To work. So give me a hot second here. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, sounds pretty good. Okay, great. So let's see. Check, check, check. Hitting buttons, pressing all the buttons, buttons, buttons. Click, click. All right. So, so hold on. Let me get this mess out of my way. There we go. Okay, great. So, quick intro here. My name is Phil Kearney. Hey, I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, and I publish them online. I've been focused on Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition for the past 5 some odd years, but my roots were in freelance illustration all the way back to the year 2000 when the OGL first launched and third-party producers were starting to create content for Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition. Back in that day, we were just getting into digital file transfer across the internet, and we were able to have remote artwork on a digital platform like this for us to create art, and it's just spiraled into greatness further and further since then. Here we are in 2023, and it's all fully digitized and online. So I've still been doing freelance commissions over the past 20 some odd years to third-party publishers. So opportunities like this arise. Andy and Brian, who are the creators of this current edition, I've worked with both of them on various DM's Guild projects in the past, and it's a thrill to do so again today. So if you're familiar with my stuff, you can. If you aren't familiar with my stuff, I stream 6 days a week. I always post when I'm live on Twitter, X here at Phil Kearney. So if you want to catch signal when I'm live in the future, you certainly can. Best way to support the channel, if you find this stuff interesting, is to like, subscribe. We picked up another subscriber. Thank you so much, guys. We're trying to climb up to 500 subscribers by the end of the year. I legitimately don't know how it's going to happen at the rate of growth that I have. So if you find the art fun, or if you like the conversations, please consider liking and subscribing so that you can help me continue pushing the channel up. So thanks. So, okay, great. So what are we doing here? Let's go ahead and deconstruct the piece again here real quick for the newcomers, so you guys can get on board with what we're doing here. Boop, 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 boop. There. Let's knock all this stuff down. Okay, great. So we'll start off with, well, with some mess, but there we go. Okay, so we'll start off with frames and title. We'll have a blank page. This is just your standard 8.5 by 11 page, right? And then, so I studied Bob Ross' work. I've been watching Bob Ross since I was 5 years old, playing Legos in the family room Saturday mornings at 6 o'clock in the morning on PBS. So he's always been a background for me. So first thing we do is we create a sky, and then we layer in some mountains, and then we bring in some hills to help push back those mountains and ground us, like literally ground us into the foreground. We'll add some trees. Let's get the framing good here so y'all can see where we're at. Here. So we got some trees, and then we add in some more earth that we're calling knolls here. We'll drop in another line of trees. Let's see here. The detail type of work that we have, the texturing for the trees. And then we'll add in some copes of trees that have more detail or a little bit more foreground. And then we'll add a water line here to push in a reflection from the mountains in the background and to help, again, further push back the terrain. Hey, Dreams, how you doing, my guy? Here we have front copes of trees. So now we have another plane of separations. We have the sky, and then the sky, the clouds, the far mountains, the distant trees, the copes of trees with the water line, and now we have these front knolls. So now we're up to 7 layers of separation, and now we just dropped in a land bridge to help bar off that water line to give this water a curve like a river. and then we start integrating. So this is 8 layers in that we're in so far of pushing this piece, and we have the blast zone here. When this weapon, with this Inrovin's weapon that we have here, mid-ground, boom, what it does is it's an abyssal weapon. It's about a 70-foot weapon. It creates a destruction of around a warp portal of around 100 feet diameter that just opens up as like a black hole, like a wormhole. It's a wormhole of destruction. The destination point of the wormhole gets decimated or utterly destroyed. Decimation technically only means just like deplete by 10%. Deci is a tenth or 0.1. So that's technically saying that something is decimated is more of like where we're hostilely depleting your resources as a Roman term. So it's more accurate to say here that it is devastating the environment around it. It has a 100 foot diameter wormhole that when it reaches its destination just causes destruction. And then there's this portal rift that can take the weapon, Inrovin's Shatter, here, that will lead you from its firing point, like as though it's a dimensional wormhole. So like if you can scry a location in another reality, like if the weapon is firing from the Abyss into Faerun, like we see here, then it destroys the landscape around it and creates a portal from hell into its destination. So that is what we are depicting here, the destruction that the weapon rots, as well as the passage of the weapon itself through the wormhole. It's basically a 70-foot mecha built mostly of like bone, sinew, and chitin. It looks like an armored crawler tank sort of affair right now, but once we finish this environment around us, we're going to give it bone, flesh, and gristle so that it has a more body horror sort of element to it. But that's essentially what we're doing here. We've also been commissioned now, in addition to, let's see, build that in. We're also going to be doing the full page. I was originally just commissioned to do this roughly half-page piece, but I then got fleshed out to do the entire cover. So we're now working on the framing with a black background. The title card here, we have the DM's Guild logo. We'll have a subtitle line down here, whatever it is, catchy phrase they want for it, and then the title up here. The motif that we're currently going with for the title is going to be the same red that we're seeing in the DM's Guild logo down here. But that's generally, like if you're talking about Magic the Gathering, right, the Abyss is generally like a black-red mana mix. Like Rakdos is literally a demon, so that makes sense. So when I pitched the idea about having a black frame background with demon red, they were pretty on board with the idea. Well, Andy was pretty much on board. Andy's the lead on the project and the originator and creator of the project. So I worked with Andy on my Eberron project, which I stream on Mondays and Thursday nights. So if you want to see how that's coming along, tune in. But where we're at right now is we are in the process of just fleshing out the rest of the terrain in the front here, getting our happy little blast zone deforestified. And so I'm just gonna stack up on top of this. The mid ground I'm gonna leave as a reference point, but I'm hoping beyond hope to be able to get this fleshed out today and finish up the forest if at all possible. So we're going to grab a color here and a color here. Dreams, how you doing, my guy? Let's drop in something like this. You gotta be careful about not having the tree trunks too thick, because then they won't read into the terrain properly. Here and here. But yeah, I did. So like I said, I've been freelancing for the past 20 some odd years, casually. It's a side hustle for me still, but it's certainly a skill that I've had the opportunity to develop over a long period of time, and. So as I've gone through that process of improving skills, you start to notice where you need to shore up your abilities over time, right? And so I was finding a severe lag in the type of in my landscapes. So I reconnected with my Bob Ross roots from when I was a kid. And hold on real quick, I'm going to that's not the right tree line that I want. I want to grab this chisel, and then I'm going to thin this chisel down like this, so it's just more of a line, so that I can add in some texture like that. And we're going to take the same brush like this. Learn to love it. Well, thank you. Bob is amazing. So yeah, so my roots in Bob Ross, but I don't see any color. So when I had to figure out how to work in color by using basically digital tools, the Photoshop that I'm using right now. At the time, back in the early 2000s, there was pretty much GIMP, Corel Paint, and Photoshop were basically the options that you had for digital painting. And at the time, the only color tools, like this RGB scale over here, this format that we have up in the upper right-hand corner, was actually really, it was new. It was a distinct way of like GUI, of general user interface for color, for color picking, and then the let's see, why am I not? There we go. And this color picker tool here, right? You can see the RGB in the upper corner here sliding around. This eyedrop tool was unique to Photoshop at the time as well. So since I didn't see any color, I needed to have a way for me to be able to work in color, and I figured out that if I imported color references off of other illustrations or photographs, I could color reference off of the piece like that. So that got me to bridge the gap from color, from not seeing color to being able to actually work in color. So I'm actually going to use this. I'm going to erase these here and switch to that at a lower opacity, like around maybe 60%. So most color is actually an issue of contrast, not the actual color itself. That's too sharp. So I'm going to drop the opacity again, knocking it down to 30%. So once I started learning more about like professional production design, it's me not having color isn't actually that, as far as production is concerned, it's not a big detriment. I just had to make sure that I could trust the resources that I'm using, my references, to make sure that I'm not screwing up color. And I've made mistakes, and I still make mistakes. Folks that stream with me here, that tag along, sometimes catch me making an error and asking, are you trying to make that thing that color? I'm like, crap, no. So even 20 years in, I still fuck up occasionally, but that's half the fun, right? Like for example, I was doing an Aurora Borealis picture once, and I had ended up using red in my palette for some reason, and so the comment was, never seen a red Aurora Borealis before. I'm like, really? Oh no! And then I went back and I checked on it, and yeah, I don't know how I got into red, but I couldn't find any samples of red. Well, it turns out that Aurora Borealis they're normally, I guess, purple and bluish when you see them, but in reality, if there's going to be, I guess later on this year, there's going to be a possibility of seeing Aurora Borealis as far down as, I guess, well, I'm here in Seattle, so I guess there's a chance of it getting down this low, just due to some atmospheric stuff that's going on. But the further from the pole you get, the more it bends away from blue and moves into a red shift. So the actual color is dependent on the curvature of the planet and where the electromagnetic energy hits the atmosphere in comparison to the angle of the planet. And so if you look at a rainbow, it like goes blue down to red because of the curvature of the light across the water droplets. So the further down in the, like from the top point origin of your arch, right at the top 90 like 90 degree. Like if this is 90 degrees, here at the 90-degree mark, it's blue, and then here at 0, it's red. So somewhere around in here, it can be like a low red indigo or purplish, I guess. That's the physics that were explained to me anyway when I looked at the article. So it turned out I could have used, like in that instance, I could have used red. It just would have been at a lower latitude than what I had assumed was possible. So it turns out that it wasn't actually a mistake for me to do that. It's just I didn't have the proper frame of reference. So even when I fuck up, there's reasons why how I screwed up might not have actually been a bad draw. So pardon the pun. But it's all about it's just about having good color references, and for us to be able to build to make sure that we're working more with contrast and having things separate so they don't get muddy or like the colors bleed in and then modify into like a brownishness too much. If I keep good color separation with contrast, the light and like contrast of light and dark, the values of the colors, I can, as long as the references are good, I can generally get away with not seeing color and still be able to produce professional work that people are willing, that people don't question it when they look at it, which is what you want. Make sure they aren't questioning you're suspending disbelief in a fantasy setting, right? So you want to make sure that the things that you produce are natural enough for people to accept what they are in the fantasy scape that you're building. Kind of rambling here this morning, so jump on board with what's going on, man? Wow, 100% colorblind. I have 0 color vision. There's it's called monochromatism. There's a link to it in my description down below. You can find out more about it if you want. But the essentials is that an eye has these cones in the retina that when light hits them, well, I'm gonna merge this down. Light will hit the different points on the retina, and these little fibers called cones catch the light and separate it into basically red, yellow, and blue, the 3 primary colors, and then mixes those and sends the mixed color information back to the brain for it to process this is a color thing. When you don't have any cones, there's no additional information being sent to the brain about what the colors are. So you just get a very in-depth grayscale illustration or photo, snapshot of what you're looking at. If you look at like modern black and white, I want to say it was it was either there was a cowboy film. I want to say it was a Lone Ranger, but I'm not positive that it was. It started in black and white, but it was a really high quality camera. So the quality was what you would expect from a normal color film. It just happened to be in black and white, and I couldn't tell. I literally could not tell the difference because I have no color information coming in at all. So it also the cone also controls resolution. So I don't have the ability to really zoom with my eyes. When I focus on, like, as I understand, when normal people focus on an object, they kind of have like this clarifying effect, like the zooming sort of thing, where they can pick out the detail. Like if something's just in the background, they aren't focusing on it. They don't see maybe they don't see as much detail, but when they focus on it, it snaps into focus, and they can get the detail out of it. If I want to have that snap effect, I have to actually walk over to that object, get close enough for me to get the level of resolution that I want, which means it's not safe for me to drive, because by the time I can read a road sign, I've already passed. I only have a split second to try to read it, and it's passed, which means that by the time I see something going wrong with a car in front of me, I won't likely have the supernatural reflexes necessary to save anyone from getting hurt. So I'm a danger. So I can't drive. I have to use my phone if I want to read the menus at fast food restaurants. I have to use the zoom function on my phone. I used to have to ask for a physical menu, but now I can use my phone instead. So technology has certainly served me well over the years. At this point, at the level of technology that we're at in the world, it's more of an inconvenience than anything life-threatening. Though I do tend to fall off cliffs and stuff, get hit by cars because I don't see them coming. Fun stuff like that. These are a few of the things that I've endured throughout my life. I'm gonna actually, yeah, I'm gonna leave this in front for now, but I think I'm gonna end up pushing this tree further back. So my life has been, for lack of a better word, pretty ridiculous. So we're adding in some roots here that are getting uprooted by the arrival of the weapon. I would say the great benefit that I've received from the limitations that I personally have is I am constantly forced to think outside of the box to come up with solutions to problems that no one else has. Like, most people don't need to figure out, how am I going to read that road sign, or, whatever my challenge of the day is. Most people don't have to deal with it, which is, in my opinion, it's actually a pretty distinct advantage, because it makes me like literally look. I mean, pardon the pun, but I literally look at things differently. So the kind of conclusions I draw from the things that I interact with are probably going to be different from a lot of conclusions that other people that look at things the normal way wouldn't necessarily draw a conclusion about, or wouldn't even ask. Like, such fundamental questions as, like, what color is that? Is like things that most people don't ever have to worry about. It's an odd honor to have my perspective about how I approach things shifted so much differently from other people. It's hard to point out an example off the cuff, but if I were to use a Dungeons and Dragons example, I looked at color mana, the idea of magic and Magic the Gathering, the 5 colors used to cast spells and build resources and stuff. It didn't take long for me to recognize that you could build that as a spell point system for 5e. I was able to see different means of being able to build a mass combat system, because I questioned the core nature of what it is that's present. Like, when you present something, I don't just accept it as it is. I have to look at it differently to figure out how am I going to interact with this thing that you've presented. So I start digging into the details and the meta mechanics of almost everything that I interact with. So I just naturally deconstruct things and then rebuild them, looking at, like, how is this related to something else that I've experienced before. And I think everyone does it to a certain extent whenever they encounter anything, but I'm constantly having to adapt and encounter new things and try to reconcile, like, that thing that's lumbering towards me. It looks like a bear with 5 legs, but by the time it's within 30, 40 feet of me, that's just somebody walking a really big dog. But my brain makes up these ideas about what it is that I'm looking at. And when it serves up to me, like, that's a penguin with a top hat. It's like, I know that's absurd. I know that's not a penguin with a top hat. It might end up being, a cashier register. Who knows? It could be anything. But that's the kind of bizarre anthropomorphization that, or melting effects that my brain has when it's attempting to figure out what it is that it's looking at. Right now I'm building some branches here that these trees are getting snapped back by the force of the arrival of the weapon. So I'm just adding in some loose branches here on the back side of these trees by just grabbing and pulling them using the smudge tool here. And I'll be able to, we could have some branches in the front, but a lot of them are going to end up being snapped off because of the direction of the weapon. But rambling on about me a lot, and now I'm starting to become self-conscious about it. Hey, there's text over here. Let's look at that instead. Time for me to have. Hey, right on, my guy. My guy's got campaign on it. Good job, man. Keep it up. Glad to have you drop by, Dreams. And then we'll add another layer here and we can have a branch like that. We can add the color in like this. No, that's too. I'm gonna get rid of that. Have that branch there so that it builds into the foreground a bit, but remains snapped off. That's important here. Grab this one. There, like that. I still occasionally get color references wrong. It happens. It happens. I have to keep an eye out for it. Ever vigilant. Push that back, and now I'm going to merge those down. I'm gonna smudge up. I'm gonna drop the strength of my smudge brush down to 54%, and just push that, just smudge it a bit into the terrain like that. I can have this behind. Yeah, behind is good. Smudge that in like that. I need to I don't think I like that foreground. We got a house. I need to knock that down. So I need to work on pushing back terrain further. Which means, let's see here. Nope. Cut, paste here. Let's shrink these down a bit. And then we can shrink these down a bit. That feels pretty good. I'm happy with that. Okay, good. Baka. Let's grab some more dirt. Just gonna grab some dirt here, make some mounds. with dirt. Up the opacity of my brush up to 70%. That's a good smudge size for soil. To be able to push lumps around, make little mound hills and stuff. Here and here, back here, a little bit of train dotting in. I want to keep this ripping ground, like blast zone effect feeling, so I'm using a lot of vertical angled language here, little chop effects. Try to keep that feeling of things getting blown apart active in this piece here, like that. Love this song. Epidemic's got good music, man. Thank you, Timely Timer. I've got a 20-minute timer going to make sure I don't fall too deep into any particular point of the piece. And remind me to take a sip of coffee. Break that all up. Smudge that in a little bit just to embed it a little bit into the terrain a little bit better. So I stream weekday mornings, Monday through Friday. There's a Spelljammer Adventures in Space supplement that I've been building for combat and exploration mechanic expansion. Monday and Thursday nights I do cartography for the Eberron adventure that we'll be publishing with Andy Headley, the old goat who created this adventure that I'm building this cover for. So you can check that out on Mondays and Thursday nights. Tuesday at lunchtime, we do mechanical development of new systems for 5th edition. We're working on a martial magic system right now for non-spell casting for barbarians, rogues, fighters, monks to use, as well as for rangers and paladins to borrow from. And then Monday lunchtime, I have I do a general stream of different stuff. Last couple weeks, I've been translating the Eldraine monsters that were presented through the Wizards of the Coast D&D Beyond website, Monsters Compendium for the Eldraine. That's been fun translating that because of the color mana that is used in Magic the Gathering, where Eldraine came from. That's been a fun project, but this upcoming Monday at around lunchtime in Seattle, or about 50 hours from now, we'll be actually playing a little bit with the Bastion system that was put out in UA8. There's not a lot I like about the Bastion system, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have any merit. So we're going to look at extracting some value and see if there's any kind of information that we can glean from it that would be useful for us to build systems with in the future. So y'all can tune in on that. Mondays, Tuesdays, and then on Friday's lunch stream, I'm getting into just whatever it is that's grabbing my attention that day. It's kind of a hodgepodge session. So I stream. Oh, what is that? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Monday, Tuesday, Friday is 3, nights is 5, 11 times a week. So there's 11 different sessions that I hold each week for typically anywhere from an hour to 3 hours, depending on what I got going on. But it typically is more like an hour and a half to 2 hours. But I'm either designing something, doing book layouts for the thing that I designed, or I'm painting artwork for the thing that I designed, or I'm doing commissions like this. So I got a lot on my plate, and I've always got something new that's in rotation. So if artwork and different ideas are fun for you to check out and listen into, and have a sort of study hall sort of environment here where you can work on your own projects and listen to me occasionally ramble about days of yore or ideas that I have about, well, gaming and in general, D&D specifically. So where a lot of my attention goes, but there's no telling what the muse is going to talk about when she drops in and starts pushing the sticks. So that feels pretty garbled up, and I'm pretty happy with that. So now we're going to, I'm just going to build a loose frame here, a border. I can just kind of scratch in and push down a little bit more to help keep that blast language going, but also to help define another degree of separation of the environment from the blast zone, so I can start hopefully getting a little bit more foliage into the space here, like thrush and ground brush and bushes and stuff. Get those things into place. Here like that. Like this. Good. Pretty happy with that. Oops. Oops. Double oops. Here we go. Sounds like the aliens grabbed Newt again outside in the parking lot. There's a bunch of little howler monkey kids that run around Saturday mornings and weekdays. This is basically roaming packs of children, like feral monsters. It's a lot of fun. When I was growing up, I grew up in Kansas City and St. Louis, Missouri, and in Kansas City, like when I was around age 4 to 6, there were just it was a suburban yuppie sort of community, so there was just tons of kids. We would roam in packs of 20. Made things like flashlight tag and a lot of fun. So many kids running around. The bus stops were just swarmed. Drop down the opacity of that just a touch. think I'm pretty happy with that. Take this, I want to bend it a bit. Transform, and we're going to skew it. Pull it down a touch like that. Raise it back up. That feels pretty good. There. Okay, now that we have that base in there, I'm going to grab these things and near mid terrain. Put a lock on that. Now we want to push past there. Trash. Start with this off black color and then toss that house into the trash. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 trash. I'm gonna put this trash at the top of this. Get out of there. Get the trash to the top of the stack. Get that out of the way. Good stuff. All right, so now we're going to start integrating ground. How do I want to do that? I want to use a darker greenish. That should be fine. All right, cool. So let's go here. Switch to our smudge brush. Let's go to Windows and then brush settings. Get rid of the spacing on this. There. Get some. As we move further from the blast zone, there's going to be more natural environment added back in, so less off gray and more color base. Like this purpley bit makes for a good background color for terrain in general. Just adding this in as just a light wash, as it were, to help break up the bleakness. As you move further from the blast zone, it becomes less bleak. stripy bits there. Okay, next thing we want to do is get into some shrubbery. This far away from the blast point here at the far edge of the piece, we should be able to have, I like this framing going across here. Let's get those references out of the way. I like that framing across the bottom, but I think do I want to push that down a bit? Yeah, I do. Cool, that feels good. Good, that feels good. Right, let's find our color references here, and let's get into this. So we'll start here with a darker shadow, and then it'll spike up to a lighter highlight, which feels appropriate. When we use our eraser, we're going to use the same brush for our eraser, the lower opacity. So when we tap at this, it disintegrates the just a little bit of the color, some of the color. So you get this loam, this more of this like this loamy effect. Loam is apparently a word that I'm integrating into my vocabulary. So cheers to that. Erase it a little bit. See, it just adds this rough texture to it. And that is helping define where the blast area ends and normal topography begins, though obviously severely impacted by the arrival of the weapon. Now we're starting to it just naturally just starts to blend. That texturing of that color just starts to blend in and create this this rough foliage feel. Thank you, timer. not tap there. I grabbed some of the shadow color we have back here. So I wanted to darken up the space a bit, but I'm going to add a new layer so that it doesn't affect the base color that we just laid down. So you can see me just tapping in this texture here, right? And the same technique again, it's just tapping in and then also tapping in with the eraser to get rid of some of it so that it starts to bleed through, but it just adds just grit. It's adding grit to the ground, which is what a lot of just landscape environment has. This has a lot of grittiness to it. So that is what we are doing, adding in some grit to help break up the features in general. Move down the line like that to use those different, what's the word I'm looking for here? Those lines that guide down into the directional is what I'm trying to say. Is pointing again, using just a different color language and a different texture, but still using the same alignment of pulling down into that black hole sort of void. And then we erase a lot of it so it just fades in, so it becomes more suggestive than obvious. Just like that. Erase that down. There, some good gritty texture. Feels pretty good. Feels pretty good. Dump that in a bit more. Break up that ground bit. Fill those lines a little here. These are all Bob Ross techniques that we've learned to do using digital tools and custom brushes. If I can get to 500 subscribers, I'll upload these brushes that I use for free on my Patreon. You can see how I use them over the course of many paintings here. So once you get your hands on them, it should be pretty easy for you to use them as well. But I have to have some sort of incentive for people to want to join in, right? So if I can hit the 500 subscribers, I will provide these brushes at no cost. Go. There, nice grittiness. Feeling good about that. So let's drop these in. We'll call this foreground terrain as a base. Myself a midground here. Now you can pull that away and you can see. Nice. Pretty happy with that. let's put us let's get into here just for a few minutes. I'm using the same brush, but vertically like this, right? Like we were doing down here, this direction. I can do the same thing here and add some grit lines. I'm going to increase the curve. Down here like that. I can erase it. Erase the curve. There. Just tap erasing, tapping and dragging. Just kind of stippling in a bit. I just wanted to get a little bit of texture, a little darkness into here. Reset that. There, good. Very good. Very, very, very good. See how that texture just kind of grits in and it brush there, and then we'll flip this upside down here to erase like that, but it just creates these little wisp effects that just adds a little bit of texture here. It doesn't have to be specifically defined, but exists in the piece. It just creates a little bit more language. That is technically here. And we're going to go back up to here. I'm going to blend that a bit. Integrate it a little bit more into the texture. Like that. Smudge it by just moving around the radius. Nice. Whoa. Good. I'm good with that. Merge that down. Bring this back in. Foreground here. Now let's work. Okay, so this thing is 70 feet. So that's 70 feet. So that means like this is roughly 80. This is 40. This is 20. 20, 40, 60, 80. That's roughly our expanse there. So let's get rid of that. switch to right brush for the job. Circle brush on point. That's good. Okay, great. So this is a cottage that is closer than that, but it's not so much closer that it needs to be significantly different in scale. So we can create a crappy little thing like this. Let's do a quick search for a color reference. Let's go to Bob Ross cabin. There we go. Copy that, and then we'll grab our references here. How's that? So what I'm doing now is I'm using my eyebrush tool in the right hand corner to see how sharp that color is compared to the other colors that we have on the piece. And it feels pretty good. So we're going to use see how that works. No, we need something darker. There, I bet that's gonna be good. That is good. That's 6, that's 12, that's 18. Grab that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. So that's sitting in a pretty good spot. Here, we need to destroy this thing, so I'm going to blast a hole in it. There. Now we're just dumping that. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. I am liking how that is resolving. The almighty oak smashing that little guy's house. Such a shame. Such a shame. But great. Great imagery, I think. Helps, I think helps pull these bits together, I think, a little bit better. Let's change the perspective just a touch here, and then skew here. Oh? We got what? Oh, we got another 20 minutes. Awesome. Okay. So we can build up this path here. That's fun. What a great little path. A happy little path. It's leading off into the destruction of the world. All right, we can do this. We can have that, but I'm gonna fade that in a lot because that's way too sharp. Let's fade that in. just want to have some textures going on here to help define the structure so it becomes obvious as a building. But by having these lines moving at odd angles compared to what the house would normally be can help pull out the truth that this place has got screwed the hell up. So take that away, take it out of here, that, that. A bit more like that. Let's go back to here. Add some more of these strips in like that. And we can raise those down a little bit more. I'll raise that up. Feels pretty good. I like how that's getting shredded up. So let's see, what do we need to do? I think we need to help define that a little bit more. So I want to have a bit more dark like this further back in here. I'll grab this brush instead. There. Let's break that up and pull it in. Like that. Good. House. There, that feels pretty good. Nice. Get that little pathway going there, and that can just bleed out into the foreground here. A little bit like that. It feels pretty good. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead now and blop, blop, blop. Pull those all into that house space. I'm going to leave that. All right, so we're here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool. So I can afford to actually make this house a little bit bigger. That is the right way to do this. Nice. Okay, cool. Now let's screw with it just a little bit more. Nice. Nice little wreckage. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out, honestly. Good. Probably afford to have that be just a touch bigger. Little ridge there, that's nice. Okay, so I can see it now. We're going to take some of this back color language here. I'm gonna have this little drop here like that. That a little bit, and then smudge that up. No, I don't think it's working out the way I think I want to. I like this ridge thing that we got there. I like this little ridge effect that we've got going on here. That just kind of happened. So I like that it's there. not bad. All right, let's just keep that like that. And I want to frame that off. We can take this part here. This is our foreground that we're generally messing with down here. There, good. And then we have front left, hit the house, and then we're going to start putting in some shrubbage in and around. There. Here. Twigs and stuff. Let's go. Let's Let's find another. Sharper color. Yeah, I like that green. That's a good green. So let's switch our brush to, let's go with this bush brush. Oops. Hem that down a little bit. Let's make a new brush layer here. I'm just going to tap in some sharper green to break this up a little bit here. No coincidence that I'm looking for a greenish color here to play in, because I got the red down here. So there's going to be a red, black, green, and then grayish brown that we're fading into. So there's a good color bounce, I think, along with just adding in some more general grit on the ground across here. Now that we're moving further away from the blast site, we can just afford to have some more greenish texture start to bleed into the thing. And we're tapping away at it again. We're going to go up to a 40% eraser while we start pushing this in. So by having more color language out here further away from the piece, we can see that this destruction here is not the norm for the environment that we're arriving in. There we go. Partially cut that a little bit and grip that in. Erasing at it with a low opacity eraser, so we're only getting rid of some color information every time we tap. But I can see those little even though I can't see the color specifically, I can see the blotching. So I want to burn down that blotching a little bit so it separates out more. There you go. So having some ground show through, but have the color blotching, again, helps add texture to the piece overall without having to encroach on where we know the color is going to break up. So. feeling really, really good. Let's get back into this brush here, and let's grab some more. I like this color palette that we're working with here. It's too light. That's rock that I'm looking at. Yeah, I bet that's gonna work out. Let's build. Oop, let's switch brushes. I'm going to move, let's move into this, more of this grass texture brush here. Is it dark enough? No. So we're gonna drop that, and then pull that green down a little bit into that, up this. By layering on different textures in the terrain, you can, and then I'm going to switch this brush to this one here. There. Like this. By changing the texture on the brush and along with some of the color information, you're layering different types of plant life over each other. Like this grass now has different types of texture and different color layering over each other. And when I'm using the eraser, the eraser is the same brush as I'm using as I'm painting. So the negative space that I'm creating is the same general shape as the color that I'm adding in. So that helps add to the overall layering effect that we create here. And then I can just erase at it to create new little pockets inside of there. Like that. I'm going to get rid of those sticks for now. Just keep on with what we're doing. Like this. It just naturally starts just to create its own little neat little spots and little unintended effects, like just that you can't plan on, that you just have to allow the randomness of the technique to generate cool little texture effects that you can just look back and witness coming to life. As you play. Okay. Wow, look at that. There's some really neat texture going on inside here. Wow. Okay, so I'm thinking, you know what? Honestly, I kind of want to leave this like this because that's going to give us a lot of language here to show this decimation that's happening or destruction that's happening here. I think I'm liking where the house is at in general. I do want to carve away at this front edge just a bit to lessen there. I really just need to, I want to just take a few more moments here. Want to add in I'm good with that, but I just want to add in a little bit more. Yeah, let's grab that as a color, and then There, by adding a little bit of texture in like this along the back, we can ground the cottage into the environment a little bit more than it was a moment ago. There we go. Without overwhelming it. Erase that down a little bit. Erase that down a little bit. Fade that in. Just push that back a little bit into what should be happy home, but is going terribly wrong. Here, just tap at this stuff to get rid of some of that patterning, just to break it up a little bit. There, I am. And then when you look back, it has a just a very natural textury sort of grittiness to the ground. So I'm actually really happy with that. When we come back next week, we're going to start working on the magical radiance effect that's going around here. Now that we have good terrain for it, we can push this magical radiance or necrotic or this baleful energy. We can start pushing that in and creating the bubbliness that we have going on here. It's like this blurbly sort of magical popping black hole in and out effect. We can sculpt that out. That might take the session, but and then from there, all we really need to do is build out the reformat the weapon itself so it looks less metallic and more flesh. So it's a good base, but we need to like wrap it in sinew and bone and get a glistening wetness to it. So next week, the magic effect, and then we start rebuilding the weapon so that it has the proper type of feel to it. I suspect this is going to be done. This should be done before November. So I might play with a little bit off screen, but so far I'm liking where we're going. I might mess with the magical effect off screen a little bit. I'm not 100%, but I'm liking where we're heading right now. This is super fun. I love how it's turning out. I think all the perspective is working. I think there's enough language in general here that it's getting across what it's supposed to be doing. The perspective seems to be working. I'm really happy with this so far. Super fun piece. And we got to wreck a happy cottage in effect. So it's nice to dilapidate things like that sometimes. Neat. Okay, guys. So we're done for today. I was thinking about coming back on stream later on today to look at the Bastion system that just came out for 4th edition, for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. But I think I'm going to spend a little bit more time with it just to make sure I know exactly what, like the different pieces to it. I just want to spend a little bit more time with it before I jump on here and really just tear it up. So, I think I'll probably hold off on that until Monday. So that's it for today. We'll be back Monday morning to do more Spelljammer ship art. And then we'll be back at lunch on Monday to look at the Bastion system. And then we'll be back Monday. And then Monday in the evening, we'll be back on doing more farm homestead cartography for the Eberron campaign that we just started on Thursday night. So you can check that out. But Dreams, thanks a lot for hanging out. Anyone else that's lurking, you're more than welcome to like, subscribe, and stick around. Drop in a chat in the future as well, because we work on painting techniques. We talk about role-playing games, DM strategies, and just my general thoughts about the RPG industry in general. So I hope to see everybody here next time. I really appreciate you being here. See you later.